on immigration. So what is going to be asked of you is that you remain quiet during their answers. We're not going to have clapping. We're not going to interrupt. What you can do is you can write down your own questions. Okay? And during, Mrs. Crow and I are going to be asking the questions. So during the debate, you can hand your questions in to us. You can pass them up, hand them to us, and we'll ask your question. They're going to be given 90-second opening statements each. Then they're going to be, the way the questioning is going to work is that we are going to pose our questions to one candidate, and then the other two will have time to rebut or to add to what that candidate had just said. And then we'll move on. The next question will be addressed to the next person, etc. Okay, so everybody's going to be able to answer every question. Yes, Lori.
Can you, in your questions that we write down, can it be to elaborate on a specific something that someone says specifically?
Yes, definitely, and I'm sure that's what we're going to be doing as well. Okay, so we're going to be, I guess I need somebody we need a timer. Okay, so when I say you have 1 minute to answer, or you have 90 seconds to speak, so Alyssa, you'll be in charge. Okay. All right, so we're going to start. We could go. Yes, when Anthony starts speaking, then start his 90 seconds. Okay. So we're going to start with Anthony.
I'm starting?
Yes, with Anthony's opening statement. And again, I'm going to tell you, this takes a lot of guts, you guys. So we're not going to make comments. We're just going to listen quietly, and you could take notes and you could ask your own questions. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I feel that we should have an open immigration policy, let whoever we want come into the country and take up all the jobs that the Americans that are in the country don't want to take. Because the illegal immigrants that are in the country right now, 71% of them have jobs and help our economy. And without them, our economy would plummet. And New York has the 4th most illegal immigrants out of all the states in America. And I believe that if we have an open immigration policy, our national debt could be lifted, and our economy will rise, and we will prosper.
You don't have to use the full 90 if you don't want to. Okay. Okay, Nicholas.
Immigrants from Latin America and Mexico come to the United States for the sole purpose of finding a better life than the one they have in their homelands. This will not stop until these people are no longer pushed from their places of birth. These countries are either run by gangs, cartel, or have virtually no government. Meanwhile, in the United States, we spent $17 billion in defense alone in the past year. So with that money, I'd like to propose a new solution. We send just a fraction of our troops to these countries, subdue the gangs and cartels that terrorize these nations. Once that is accomplished, we'll rebuild their governments and economies, serving as an example as we feed and house the people. During this time, they will become a Puerto Rico-like Commonwealth. Then we'll tax them, we'll get a little something out of it, and they will now no longer be trespassing on American soil because they are American soil.
Okay. No? Okay. Don't clap for him.
This is my opening statement.
Okay. Thomas.
I believe we need to first strengthen our borders. We don't just have an illegal immigrant problem. We're also fighting terrorists, and I feel that they can just as easily come into the country. I think we should allocate funds from government spending to employ more patrolmen down on the border and start public safety, like officers who can get to know the public and educate them and weed out the criminals. I think our green card system is out of date. I think we need to update it, and so immigrants should want to come here legally, and they should want to go through our green card system, our visas. And yeah.
Okay, now do we clap? Oh, you can clap now. Okay. All right, so we're going to go question number 1. I'm going to give to Thomas, and then you'll each, Tom, you're each going to have between 30 seconds and a minute to answer the questions, okay? Answer them to the best of your ability. So, do you believe that the nearly 12 million people who are in this country illegally should be given a path to citizenship, or should they be deported back to their country of birth? And explain why, please.
I don't think it's practical to deport millions of people. It'll just cost way too much money. And I don't think we should just let those who are already here become citizens. That's just setting a bad example that if you come here, make your way here, you step foot here, you can become a citizen. I believe that, so we can't kick them out, so we need to find a way to assimilate them, make them what we feel, make them citizens, but not just hand them their citizenship. They should have to apply, they need to meet certain requirements, they should be giving back to the community, having a job, and trying to build a family.
Well, with my plan, I believe if you can show a birth certificate from your country, then you have the right to be a citizen. If you're here, we should 100% make it way easier to be a citizen than it is. 100 years ago, to become a citizen, you came here, you weren't sick, and you were well enough to work, which is what these people are looking for. You were a citizen. 500 years ago, there was no citizenship test when those people came on the Mayflower.
I think it would be nearly impossible to try and deport all 12 million of the illegal immigrants because it would take a lot of effort and manpower and money to find all 12 million and send them back. And like I said before, it would crush our economy if we sent all 12 million back to their home country.
All right. Question 2 goes to Nick. You start. So minors who were brought here illegally and have grown up here, today they're known as dreamers, have asked for deferrals for deportation. This is kind of a two-part question. So should the government allow them to stay? And then if they are allowed to stay, can they be eligible for entitlement programs such as student loans, health care, food stamps, etc.?
I think that if they're here, they should apply for citizenship. They should have all the rights that American citizens have. And again, it should be easier for them to become citizens. The benefits given to them should be decided on their status, the same as it's given to any other citizen. You know, if they make a certain amount of money, which is probably low, we should definitely give it to them. What's the second word?
I think you.
Did I answer it?
Stu, what about student loans? What do you
Student
think
loan?
about student loans?
I think these people are definitely, they're coming from countries where some of them, here the worst case scenario, we end up going to Suffolk. Even like in the worst parts of the country, worst case scenario, you get an apprenticeship, you become a semi-skilled laborer. These people are filling unskilled jobs. They have no education, no formal training. All they can do is what they can manage with their own bare hands. So yes, these people do need more help with education.
I agree with my other candidate that that the illegal immigrants should be able to have access to student loans and health care because they are in this country, and just because they're not here legally doesn't mean we shouldn't accept them for the people they are. Because like Nick said in the other question, we came here 200-300 years ago illegally, for lack of a better word, without documentation to find a better life, and that's what they're looking for. And I think that the dreamers of today should be given a deferral of deportation.
What about entitlements? Student loans, health care?
I think I touched base on that.
Okay, sorry. Okay. Okay. Go ahead, Tom.
This is the 18th century. I don't think we should just let people come here and then hand them scholarship funds to go to college. That's not a good example. I think there should be a process, again, for them to get visas and to prove that they want to give back to the economy and be a loyal citizen. And once they've completed such visas, then they can get incentives and stuff.
Ms. Greenberg, may I ask the two gentlemen that are giving entitlements and scholarships, where are you getting the money for all that?
where are the colleges getting the money to give the
Colleges aren't getting money,
scholarships?
government, federal government.
Yeah, student loans is-
is federal government.
That's a whole nother reform in itself, but as I said earlier, we spent $17 billion on military in the past year. That's 63% of our tax budget.
So you're
Do
taking
you know-
from the military budget?
We could take it from all kinds of things. You know what percent of it goes to education? 6. Literally less than a tenth of what we spend on military goes to our education. We have more than enough money to educate every person in this country, legal or illegal.
But he said.
Well, all the student loans that citizens now are getting from the government for their time spent in college, some of these people that are getting their degrees aren't using them, like some maybe art degrees or other, like philosophy maybe, not to bash on those majors or anything, but
She was I was an English major. You just getting you killed this right now.
but they're taking out student loans and they're not doing anything with their degrees per se, when the immigrants that would be coming in and would be working hard to get their degree, to have a better life, so that they can live better than their parents lived in Mexico, El Salvador, whatever country they came from.
Okay.
You weren't spending it.
Yeah. All right. Tom, this question's for you.
Again.
Well, you're gonna. This is perfect for you actually, because this is what you basically just said. What is your stance on border security? This is a 3-part question. Okay. What did you basically said that already? Your stance on border security. Is it the responsibility of the national government or the border states? And what is your solution to stopping illegal entry into our country from now on?
So the border security, who it falls on, I think states alone can't handle that type of security. It should be split between the state and the government, depending on how much of the state's property is on that border. Border security itself, we need to increase the amount of manpower we have down there. The Mexican border is one of the most dangerous places in the world right now. But that also has to go with cartels and stuff, which is why something similar to a safety officer, public safety officer, would be able to weed out those cartels. Stopping illegal immigrants, you can't stop somebody. Where somebody wants to do something, you're going to do it. So we should give them a way to come here legally. And that way should be easy, but it should be thorough enough to do background checks using Mexico's systems and our systems.
Nick?
As far as terrorism, we already have the most secure border you can find. It's called the Atlantic Ocean. There's no actual danger present in Mexico. The cartel is terrorizing the people down there. Now, with my solution, everyone would already be a citizen. As far as the border, I believe that we should have the offices right there. You can walk up to the border, you can fill out your paperwork, you can decide if you're eligible, and you become a citizen right there. Walk in, welcome home.
Anthony?
I think Nick's solution is a very
Are
good.
you ready for his vice president? Yeah, go ahead.
He's my VP, man.
It's like 2 versus 1.
All right, wait.
Take
Okay,
them
wait.
both.
No, shh, go ahead.
But
Anthony.
I think border security should be increased to stop the cartel and all the drugs that would be passing between U.S. and Mexico. But I think that the illegal immigrants that would be passing through should be given more leniency when it comes to being able to come in and like become citizens and get a job and live there.
Can I come back at something?
Go ahead.
So, can I ask that?
You can.
So if you're going to allow everyone to just a free pass into the country, what are you going to do when our country is over capacity?
Define overcapacity. Do you think there's going to be no room? We're all going to be right next to each other. There's no breathing room?
Absolutely.
That's actually what you're afraid of?
Yeah, Nick.
They manage in India and China just
How many? Can we support that many people? In China, come on, you
It's a
can't
lot of
compare
breathing
China.
room there.
They're killing babies. Is that what we're gonna do?
Not so much.
And then the Atlantic Ocean, the terrorists can easily hop on a plane from their
My
home.
point is the terrorists aren't coming from Mexico.
How do you know that for a fact?
When was the last time you heard about a Mexican terrorist?
I didn't say they're from Mexico, I said they're going through the border of Mexico.
I have a question for Nick, for Nick's policy. So, what if the Mexican government, the Central American governments do not want us there and do not want to become part of the United States? What if they like being Mexican?
I'm not saying they lose their identity as Mexicans. I'm saying the Mexican cartel has more military power than the Mexican military. What we're doing is taking care of their issues. We're their exterminators. We're getting rid of the vermin. We'll help them out with whatever other problems they have, but those are the main issues that everything else stems from. Once those people are gone, they're still going to have terrible economies and terrible governments. Mexico's been split since the last 100 years. You know, Salvador, Costa Rica, Guatemala, they have virtually no government. What we're doing is just setting a precedent.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Going right at you. Does that sound familiar in any other country that we've done recently and it hasn't turned out so well? You know, where we show up, take over their government, train their forces, and think we're going to fix their system?
You can name lots of those.
Doesn't ring a bell.
Iraq.
No.
We're getting off topic, but I can talk. I'll talk about war.
Wait.
I'll talk about war. For 3
Okay,
seconds.
stop. Go ahead.
The problem with Iraq is the people there have a different culture in which they don't like the idea of a united country of Iraq. They're much more separated by tribal and religious beliefs. You know, they don't want to be united under a flag. They want to be united with the people like them. That's not so much seen in South America.
Can I touch on something?
Yeah.
So you want to cut defense spending, so where are you going to get the money to go into these countries and do what you want?
By the taxes that the immigrants that we made legal are paying.
What do you want?
Can I drop a marker?
You were supposed to show up to be president.
Yeah. Tina Gallery.
I hope you're regretting your laziness.
I regret it.
What the heck?
17 billion.
$17 billion. $17 billion.
What does that mean?
Remember that statistic? 63% spent on military.
It's not
We
crowded,
have
right?
more than enough money.
But where's that money going right now?
To building more and more cannons and big red buttons that could clearly blow up half the world when we're still billions of dollars ahead of the next closest country in military spending.
Okay, we're going to move on to the next question. This is for Anthony. So the other issue with immigration is refugee status, right? So what are your guidelines for who should be given refugee status and how should we treat these people?
I think we should give people refugee statuses based on their criminal records, whether they're coming into the country to escape the police from their country if they've done something wrong.
We'll come. If you have another thought, we can come back to you. And Thomas, refugees.
I don't think we should just close our doors to refugees. The current policy is if a refugee is coming from a place where there's a well-founded fear, they're allowed in. There's also the policy right now where if you're coming from a communist state, you're considered a refugee and you're allowed citizenship the second you come on the border, come to the country. And I don't think we're still dealing with a Red Scare or anything. I don't think that should be, that should continue, but I don't think we should support communism, but everyone should have to work for citizenship. So yeah, I would not want to close doors to refugees. There should be a system that you should qualify to be a refugee.
The one thing I'll agree with Tom is, yeah, the Red Scare is over, so we're getting rid of wet foot, dry foot. That is some BS. Seriously, like, it shouldn't be judged on how fast you got here that decides if you're a refugee or not. You could have a serial killer step foot on land and then a doctor on a boat and they catch the doctor and send them back. As far as South America, children should 100% be granted refugee status. Basically, anyone who can prove they came from some kind of clear and present danger, which it's not that hard to do when you come from one of those countries if you hear some of their stories. Really, it's hard to define a refugee.
Okay. My last question is I'm gonna direct it to Tom because well, you'll see why. So there's a man that we've all read about named Javier, who has a family in Ohio. He had no criminal record other than entering the nation illegally. He was deported a couple of months ago, separated from his American family, who now struggles to live without him. So what should the country now do about people like Javier, who has an American family, but he's been separated from them?
He should want to come back to the United States and go through our systems to be a legal citizen, to meet back up with his family and have a family, because that's what makes America. I think we need to have a swift but thorough green card system so that these people can come through the country, not just handing them a pass. They have to prove themselves and start building a family and building America.
Javier was a prime example of what we want out of these immigrants. He was a hard worker with a clean background and a beautiful family, and we took that away from him just because he was the next person on the list. That man should 100% be reunited with his family, have his home back, and honestly, it should be done tomorrow.
Well, Javier had his lovely family in Ohio, and they took him and deported him. I think we should grant him and other people like him amnesty to return to his family so he can support them and give them a better life. Because we are Americans, not Americans. And right now, with our policy with immigration, we can't be supporting these families and helping them flourish.
Okay. You have any? Are there
God bless America.
are there any student questions that you want? All right, go ahead, Marissa.
So, what do you do, let's say these refugees, if they commit crimes here, you're gonna send them back, but what if they have a family here as well?
Who are you directing your question to?
All.
Okay, so we'll start with Tom.
So if they commit a crime in our country, they should
If
go.
they have their family.
Wait, no, you asked. You gotta let him answer.
Oh, sorry.
If they committed a crime in our country, in our soil, they should go through our system to be tried. I don't think we should just send them back because they stole a can of soda. They should go through our system.
Yeah, it's not a serious crime, but they still committed a crime here, but they have family here.
So he answered. Nick?
So, yeah, I know, that's true.
Absolutely, exact same rules that apply to every American citizen should apply to every citizen of American soil.
Anthony?
I agree with both of them. They should be tried through the American criminal system and given a fair trial. And
Okay. All right, we're going to let you guys have your closing statements, and then we're going to vote. Unless anybody, Ms. Crow, any questions?
Love you, question.
But then I thought maybe is there a way to do that where it might work? So it didn't work in Afghanistan or Iraq, but how might it work in nations in South America?
Okay. Nick, you want to elaborate on your nation building plan?
Elaborate, and my idea is we take a number of the troops, we send them down to South America, we get rid of the cartels, the gangs. These are oligarchies run by gangs. Literally, imagine if the Crips or MS-13 were your government. That's what it's like there. These people live in constant terror of gangs. We eradicate those gangs, then they're still not going to have a stable enough government, so we take what we've done with Puerto Rico, which is it's a commonwealth. It's not exactly a state, but they abide by our laws. They vote in our elections if they're here, and they're honorary citizens. We give them those rights. We give them the right to American jobs. They can enlist in the American Army. They can become politicians. They can become economists. They have all the rights of an American system in their homeland.
Anybody want to rebut before you do your closing statements?
How are you going to find them? You're just going to turn everything upside down?
We found Bin Laden. We can find some.
Oh. Okay, closing statements. We'll start with Tom. Quiet.
I think it's the executive branch is established to enforce the laws, not make laws. So I believe that there should be no executive orders. That if Congress isn't doing their job, that the president should be stepping in and trying to talk to Congress and try to make them agree with each other, or eradicate whatever law they're passing so that they can all agree. I think we need to come up with some sort of system that Congress doesn't get paid unless they're being productive. If they're spending 5 months making an immigration bill, I feel like they should only get paid for maybe 2 of those months. There's no better motivation than money.
Nick?
There's a number of reasons why my policy works for both us and the nations of Latin America. It will both halt illegal immigration and make the world a better place. But the best I can think of is this. Imagine there are no borders, just people, just humans. Humans up here living the luxuries of the first world, while just south of us, they're 2 worlds behind. This is a humanitarian emergency that should be a top priority to us, not just because we have the money to, not just because we're the closest superpower not separated by an ocean, but because we're humans. The United States has the power to eradicate the true enemies of poverty and anarchy, and that's the war I believe we should be fighting. God bless America.
No comment yet. Anthony?
America should have an open immigration policy, not just to Mexico, but to all the countries that would like to, that all the people that would like to escape their countries for whatever problems they may have, poverty, war, just complete and utter chaos. I don't have anything else I'm going to say.
Okay, now,
Thank you.